I definitely veer more towards that side sometimes because in my mind, it's like you don't want the kids to leave with the wrong information.
Mm-hmm.
The wrong information.
Yeah, God forbid. What else? Anybody else care to share? Maybe you're wholeheartedly a left side person. You're a left side person.
No, I just had something to share. Like our math, like my math program that we're using, the units are all different. So we finish, and then the next one, sometimes it doesn't go back. So like that's the left side, but our reading and writing units, they're kind of circling.
Right.
So it's, what we're doing. So sometimes I feel like when we were doing the math program, like it was done and then completely new. So
I got you. I think that you opened the door towards a huge element that our entire district needs to be shifting towards. And that's the idea that math and other classes, say science, or let's say that you're talking about language arts, they sort of need to find a way to become friends so that you can be reusing these. And it's not just, oh, well, we'll get back to that eventually when the person who wrote the book who doesn't live here or work with students gets back to it in the next chapter. The books are not actually the curriculum. The books are a guide to the curriculum, but we get to be the artists who make the painting at the end. So whatever you want to do in order to make this the best possible experience for your students, as long as you don't throw all things to the wind and say, we're just going to talk about the things I love, you should be fine. But making opportunities for them to actually pull these things together is extremely important. And failing fast is important. So Dalton mentioned time earlier. You don't have to give them forever. In fact, if you see that they're failing, it's okay to stop them and then say, we didn't do this right. Now, how are we going to fix it? Because how are you going to fix it is the bigger portion of that, not how long can you fail before you give up and come to me and whine. So let them fail, but see if you can find a way to turn that so that you continue. They learn that you can solve problems. I am empowered to fix this. I just need to get the tools to go out and find ways to fix these problems. Last week last month, when Michelle was here, was it last month?
Yeah.
When Michelle was here, you guys were talking about identification for G&T. So I love the whole identification portion. I think it's probably the most hotly argued G&T concept you can find, because we can find all different ways that we value for giftedness, and I'm sure Michelle went into a ton of that with the dance. So the reality is, we're not all dealing with gifted kids all day long, but they have different things that they're good at. And we want to try and give them as many opportunities as possible. We paused. We didn't say anything else important while you were gone. We want to make sure that we give them opportunities to act in a way that will tie this information together, because eventually you get it. Did anyone go through college and all of a sudden math started to click?
Yes.
Yes?
No.
I saw at least two. There's a lot of people who all of a sudden their brain's like, oh, that's the math part. So there are kids who just need some time, or they need a different presentation of the material. And once they have relevance, all of a sudden this information comes together. So when we're shifting, we're really trying to change the way. This is going to be hard for you. I'll try and make it. I want to show you a quick video, and by quick I mean about 8 minutes and 10 seconds. It's loud enough, right? Everybody can hear that?
No.
It's a joke.
House up there. It's in the middle of nowhere, about a mile from the nearest neighbor. To this day, cell phone reception does not exist at that location. As kids, we spent our time running out into the forest, creating our own adventures with no adult supervision. It was paradise. We spent our time playing in streams, chasing frogs, building forts, all the things that kids do. And we wore mosquito bites, like a badge of honor, because they were the price we paid for absolute freedom. and it was an awesome experience. I consider us so lucky that we had the opportunity to explore the natural world at such a young age with no adult supervision.
Today, 27 years later, Chris and I both have kids. In fact, our daughters are 8 days apart. We still go to that same house in upstate New York,
That won't be on the text.
except now, my mother, our mother, my son's grandmother, is deathly afraid of letting the grandkids out of her sight. Why does my brother have to remind her and I that at the same age, we too were running all over those woods? What has changed so significantly in our family in less than a generation? And why do my kids now experience a shrunken radius of play? And what is that change costing us in terms of our kids' character, confidence, and creativity?
Hi, I'm Chris Boggiano.
And I'm John Boggiano.
We're both parents, educators, and lifelong learners. As two dads who hope to raise happy and healthy kids of our own, we spent a lot of time wondering, what does that mean? And what can we actually do to make it happen? We've interacted with thousands of students and parents, educators and innovators. And today, we want to share with you some of what we found.
Almost everyone we've spoken to has expressed their dismay at the current state of American education. And almost all of their anxiety is related to children's test scores. While we don't want to diminish the importance of test scores, we think there's a fundamentally overlooked factor of success, and that's emergence of play.
When we were kids, the only toy in our grandmother's house was a tub of Legos that, so far as I could tell, had been there since the beginning of time. We spent hundreds of hours playing with those blocks throughout our childhood because a tub of Legos, that is an invitation to imaginative play. It fosters children's social, emotional, and intellectual skills by allowing them to try out and master new things.
But even today, Legos have changed. My son Julian owns several times his own body weight in Legos. It's true. However, almost all of them look like this. They come in pre-scripted sets with step-by-step instructions, pre-imagined by somebody else. He gets upset if this Ninjago dragon loses even one single piece.
Or if his 2-year-old cousin Olivia comes along and smashes it on him.
Or his sister. I, however, get excited when he builds this, which is a Star Destroyer made out of Lego flat plates, and it's his imagination of what it would look like on the inside. And he gets to play with this. You see, we believe that the more play is a creation of children's minds, their own minds, the more that they are authors of their own identity, the more powerful it is. And it's regardless of whether they're the screenwriter or the scientist, the ninja warrior or the princess.
But when we say play, a lot of parents end up thinking play dates. But we believe that play dates can be to childhood what microwave dinner is to food. Seemingly healthy, well-intentioned, highly refined, and it turns out that when you look a little closer, they're totally devoid of any nutritional value. The subtle shift towards structured play can strip away the spontaneity, creativity, and curiosity that are all natural elements of healthy childhood development. For the MBAs in the crowd, try to think about a pack of kids just running around outside with no adult supervision. That's like a life internship. It requires all the things you pay money to come to Stanford to learn. Strategy, negotiations, probably even some interpersonal dynamics.
Safety and success. These are fundamental to the mindset of today's parents. So let's start with safety. Whether it's because of the 24-hour cable news, the internet, or Amber Alerts, today's parents are deathly afraid that there is a child predator around every corner. Parents have always wanted their kids to be safe, but today there's a pervasive anxiety, and it's affecting our kids. We've tried talking to parents about statistics which show that we live in the safest times on modern record. However, it doesn't matter, and myself included, every one of us would say, better safe than sorry.
So how do we balance the benefits of imaginative play with concern for our children's safety? This is where the radius comes in. Rather than a narrow path or a checklist defining success, let's imagine a wide radius or a boundary. And within that boundary, we should give our kids free rein to imagine, create, and explore their own worlds. So let me be clear. Imaginative play is not anarchy. It does not mean there are no rules. It's a healthy part of childhood development. I'm not asking you to run out of here and find the nearest 6-year-old and give him some matches, scissors, and super glue and let him see what he can come up with. Boundaries are the line between safety and recklessness. The boundary for your 10-month-old might be the walls of her pack and play. And the boundary for your 10-year-old might be the area between your house and his best friend's house all the way down the street. Success. The other fundamental factor. Every parent wants their kids to be successful. However, parents in society today are increasingly defining success as the narrow path that leads through the elite college admissions process. Some of this is related to the shrinking family size. Our grandmother was one of 7 children. Our father was one of 4. Today, 1 or 2 is more common. The benefits of fewer children are that more parental time and energy can be spent on each individual kid. The downside is the paralyzing fear that your perfect 6-year-old won't get into Stanford. We hold our own kids hostage to our own hopes, so much so that we won't let them risk failure, get into trouble. You want to know a secret? We spoke with the folks at the Stanford admissions office, and guess what? They reject 69% of applicants with perfect SAT scores. And you know what else? Do you know what they told us they're looking for in their perfect applicants? In their own words, it's someone who has found his or her own voice. So what does that mean? It means that they're looking for people who aren't relying on Stanford to define who they are. So, how do we help kids find their own voice? Imaginative play, unstructured activities, creative freedom. That's the key to building character, confidence, and creativity. As parents, I encourage you to think about wide boundaries rather than narrow roads and precise checklists. Boundaries give us permission to both keep kids safe and allow them to become authors of their own identity. As a parent myself, I would love it if my kids could come to Stanford, if that's what they wanted to do. However, I also realize that if I push them too hard and predefine success for them in too much of a certain way, I'm likely to cause their failure or hinder their chances of getting it. So my challenge as a parent is to help my kids find their own voice. And our challenge as a society is to give our kids the space to develop within their own rays of play. Thank you very much.
All right, so I will respect your time, I promise. So it's 49, I have 10 minutes to get you out on time, and I'm going to do it. One of the things they talked about were the communication, critical thinking, creativity, collaboration. We did that a little bit when I'll do the micro machine talk so we get out of there. We did that a little bit when, hold on, pause. How many people in here know what micro machines were? Oh, okay, wow. All right, cool. I am getting older. Now, we're talking about how the idea of these things play in a student's life. This isn't like a language arts people, you need to start making sure that there's a lot more collaboration, or science people, you need to make sure that these kids are doing critical thinking. It's every single area we should be doing it. From Brittany teaching preschool through Mike teaching 8th grade in our district, these kids should be involved in different levels, and it's a continuum. So I know that the level of critical thinking in your class is going to be different than the level of critical thinking in your class. However, if we don't try and introduce these are skills. Collaboration is a skill. Talk to somebody in the real world who is hard to work with, and you will realize that collaboration is a skill. There are probably peers, and no, I don't want you to say them out loud, but I would assume that whether they're peers here or people you grew up with, worked with in college, or some other way interacted with, they were not very good at collaborating. Either their way was the only way, or your way was the only way because they could care less. Both of those extremes are difficult to work with. So we need to get kids to start learning that. Creativity. Well, you could say that creativity is something you have or you don't. The reality is you can at least strengthen that muscle, and we need to be working on that. Communication comes in a lot of different forms, whether it's the nonverbal things that you do when you're trying to listen to somebody. There are certain people who are great at attending skills. If you are going to school to learn how to become a counselor, you start learning attending skills. And that means that you actually nod at appropriate times. You have the ability to make eye contact with somebody in a way that's not creepy, but still allows them to feel as though you've engaged with them. So we need to make sure that our students are learning some of these soft skills and finding ways to apply them in a broader scheme. So this is what, I'm going to skip this because I think that, no, I like my next exercise better. All right, so here's what we're going to do. For the next 5 minutes or so, I would like you to start the process of designing your own 5-minute activity that you can use with your students tomorrow that incorporates the discussion and what we've been having today, so the essence of the discussion. All right? So take a few minutes, see if you can come up with a way that you can actually introduce this and make it actionable inside of your classroom. You might already have some things there. The idea would be to share this. So that's why we're here.
I didn't yet.
Looking when you're talking. My mom was just looking out if I had to create an anchor chart and you create one house and they got something like when you're studying partners or
Yeah, Dan. Your 5 minutes. You can talk about it better in 7.
oh my gosh, I know that.
Just keep spelling
Which I didn't think that were like that.
What are you talking about? Sentence starters?
They're talking about how, you know, they don't have, like, kids don't have a lot of communication skills like we had. Like, they don't have to in the academic to how to communicate with kids.
Yeah.
So we were talking about, like, anchor charts in terms of, I did it so because they were,
What traits does it need
to begin the year for, like, partner talk, and now we're like, oh my god.
Think about the shift. I mean, even in the younger teachers that are here, the shift is huge in the way that you used to talk to people, where you had to actually interact. And I was like my parents and older generation, like we probably don't talk about it. But they do have so much more time to text. That's the interaction. They text and they send pictures back and forth. Yeah. So attending to art.
This is like the first time though that I really saw like awesome examples. Just like
Yeah, like when it's in front of you and you're like, whoa. Yeah.
I think one of the coolest things about my directing and stage management class is that a lot of modeling, but also instructing them that as the director, they're the expert on their scene, and they have to make definite decisions about the character and where their character is and how they strategize. They really get to create the character. So they're doing more than like a director, but I do not want to because I want that after some of it is it's hard, but it's so like I spend a lot of time with the kids that I have a hard time with. They don't know where to start. Now once you do give them that starting point, they know, how is this person going to get out of life? I don't know. Well, let's think about it. What are some possibilities?
Right.
I like want to do some like
Okay, what are they going to
because they always make things feel Legos and then it's like we never have places for things like Lego trains.
where are they gonna get the part?
Yeah.
And all of a sudden, now they have the whole scene made up. They don't even realize it. And it's a neat opportunity because I think a lot of these kids really good. Like in the college,
Even beyond the time factor, time factor is something that even relative to teachers allow, or it exploits. So I have to get through this. If you're not answering, I'm giving you the answer. If we don't get this done today, I gotta pay for that tomorrow. Our kids are very smart. I mean, when you compare them to the state, they're going to do well. Socioeconomically, statistics point to us doing well almost regardless of what we do here. Their parents are going to expose them to enough. We almost have the job. We want to stay status quo and not to much. So how do we take it and really that's the shift that we really explore.
My kids will utilize the lunch clubs, like, right, my kids will eat outside box where they love lunch. They would find the room. Drive downtown and now go I felt
So, if you guys have any ideas on any quick activity you can do, and you don't have to do it, you don't have to write it down right now, even if you just go down through in your own mind, try and put something into action as soon as you can. Even if it's just a quick activity, I don't need you to do like an entire long-winded project. 5-minute activity and rest, get started. Something that can be related to exactly what I'm doing with you now, to see how well they can execute some of these skills. Some of them might be something that they might not excel in their area, or how much trouble they have. Math is just an experience of teaching math. You have to teach somebody versus what you have to do it. It's completely different. There are kids who can nail a math problem. Although they have to appear, they will collaborate and say, you just do it like this, and you just do it in front of you. That's tough. That's a communication skill. That's something you have to possess. So I think it's good to get them to start from
Like the basic core, and you might heard that probably having the foundation.
You don't have to turn it. That's a takeaway here. My goal is just to get me but I will, and more than I will, over everybody who wants. All right. See you later.
He's like, I answer this. We're getting
I'm not as scared. And I just write a statement on the board, not a question. So I'll write like, today we learned about shame about it. Whatever, my kids know what it is. So, and I can say like, Daniel Shades justified it. I messed up my own activity. Daniel Shades what is justified in his result. And then I'll write the board, strongly agree, disagree, strongly disagree. And then we also like strongly agree. Okay, these initials are these, who think strongly agree, and here's the why. And so that hits somebody. Yeah, it's the same thing as like other viewers. It's 4 corners.
And they're like, every time I do it, it's like they're surprised that they're like moving. I can take the first minute that like you could easily be on any side.
I tell them too, like if you hear somebody else's argument, you want to change mine, you can go walk away.
Yeah, and they're always like, wow, I didn't think about that. And I'm like, me neither.
That's one thing. There's something like
I saw that. divide it, and so why not that's right? Like you could do that.
I like to ask a question like how the kids do this. You can't hide, these are your initials.
Oh, yeah, they're like 19 kids.
That kid said something, I agree with what that kid said.
I don't know, I can say under my 10-year-old mind. I know it, I was in college, right? Say something and I'm like, you're president? Right, I'm like looking over here like, sorry, ready to leave the plane.
When they're taking their notes in, is it going to show me their notes as I'm scrolling myself? So it's not going to be like blank.
I feel like we were just in
I feel like I should know what they said that they have to score themselves.
And then over the summer, we got 40, right?
Yeah, I don't want to know what they scored. Yeah, he's like, oh, you gave me a 3. I guess I would.
I think we have to do two matter. I don't think there's no days for second.
I want to know, like, I don't mind seeing, like, what you put under there, like, oh, this happened at this time and stuff, but, like, I don't want to know the score until afterwards.
All right, so I think it's time. I have to shut up. We have to go. I have 1 second, like 1 minute worth of things to say. The things we're discussing today are the part of the shift of where we are moving to. It's a cultural shift, though. We need to give kids the opportunity to go through the failure. We need to give them an opportunity to actually try things out and have opportunities to do things their own way, whether that be in your personal subject or giving them exposure to another subject within yours. So all I ask is that you try. I'm not asking for you, don't send me your activities unless you really want me to give feedback, in which case send me your activities because I would love to be able to share them with others. I don't want anything out of you other than for you to have the courage to go back and try something and see how it works. And when it doesn't work, go through the iterations of trying to make it better and possibly tell a friend. All right, it's been great seeing you all. I hope you have a wonderful drive home. Around 5 o'clock, the deer start to move, so if you can go ahead and avoid those, that'd be great.